I didn't notice the exact moment my energy disappeared. There was no single bad day, no dramatic collapse. It faded quietly year after year, until one morning at 68 I realized I was tired before the day had even begun. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes, but a deeper exhaustion that lived in my bones, followed me through the day, and sat beside me at night. I told myself it was age. Everyone did. But something inside me questioned that explanation, because this fatigue didn't feel natural. It felt borrowed, like something I had unknowingly been carrying for too long. For decades, I believed energy was something you gained by adding more vitamins, more exercise, more discipline, more effort. That belief followed me into my late 60s, even as my body resisted it. The harder I tried to push through the fatigue, the heavier I felt. What I eventually discovered was counterintuitive. My energy didn't return because I added something new. It returned because I removed what was draining it in the first place. The first thing I stopped was living in a constant state of low-grade stress. I never considered myself a stressed person. My working years were mostly behind me. I wasn't rushing between meetings or juggling deadlines. From the outside, my life looked calm, but internally my mind was rarely still. I woke up thinking about unfinished responsibilities. I spent mornings reading troubling headlines. I replayed old conversations, imagined future problems, and worried about things I couldn't control. None of this felt dramatic enough to call stress, but my body felt it all the same. As I got older, I began to realize that my nervous system never truly rested. Even during quiet moments, my shoulders stayed tense, my breathing shallow, my thoughts alert. I wasn't relaxing, I was merely pausing. That constant vigilance drained me more than physical labor ever had. At 68, my body no longer bounced back from this invisible strain. Stress lingered longer, sleep became lighter, and mornings started to feel like uphill climbs. I didn't eliminate stress entirely. That would have been unrealistic. What I stopped doing was feeding it unnecessarily. I reduced my exposure to constant negative information. I stopped checking the news multiple times a day. I stepped away from conversations that revolved around complaints and fear. I created predictability in my routine, not rigidity but rhythm. The same waking hours, quieter evenings, slower mornings. Over time, my body responded. I noticed I wasn't as tired by midday. My mind felt less scattered. I had more patience. The energy that returned wasn't sharp or restless, it was steady and it felt sustainable. The second thing I stopped was eating for comfort instead of nourishment. I had never thought of my eating habits as unhealthy. I didn't overeat. I didn't binge. But food had become emotional rather than intentional. I ate heavier meals when I felt drained, sugary snacks when I needed relief, and late dinners simply because I always had. In my younger years, my body adjusted without complaint. At 68, it no longer did. What I began to notice was how much energy digestion demanded from my aging body. Heavy meals slowed me down for hours. Late eating disrupted my sleep in subtle ways I hadn't connected before. Sugar gave brief comfort followed by deep fatigue. I wasn't eating badly, I was eating without considering how my body processed food now, not how it did decades earlier. Instead of dieting or restricting myself, I stopped eating in ways that stole energy from the next day. I stopped eating late-night meals. I stopped snacking out of boredom. I stopped choosing foods that left me heavy and sluggish. I started paying attention to timing and simplicity. Meals became lighter in the evening. Portions became more intentional. I asked myself how I wanted to feel later, not just how I wanted to feel in the moment. Gradually, my mornings became easier. The afternoon slump softened. My energy stabilized instead of spiking and crashing. I didn't feel deprived. I felt aligned with my body again. The third thing I stopped was forcing my body to behave like it was younger. This realization was humbling. I had spent years measuring myself against past versions of who I used to be. I expected the same endurance, the same recovery, the same output. When my body resisted, I pushed harder. I exercised longer than necessary, ignored early fatigue, and treated rest as weakness. I believed slowing down meant giving up. What I eventually understood was that my body wasn't failing me, it was asking for cooperation. Aging didn't remove my ability to move, it changed how movement needed to happen. When I stopped trying to dominate my body and began listening to it, everything shifted. I shortened workouts. I moved more frequently but less aggressively. Walking replaced intense sessions. Stretching replaced strain. Recovery became a priority instead of an afterthought. The results surprised me. I had more energy, not less. I felt capable without feeling depleted. My body responded to respect far better than it ever did to force. The energy that returned wasn't explosive, it was reliable. It showed up every day without demanding payment afterward. One morning, I noticed something I hadn't felt in years. I woke up naturally before the alarm without dread or heaviness. My mind felt clear. My body felt ready. Not eager, not rushed, just present. That moment stayed with me because it reminded me that energy isn't about youth. It's about balance. What I learned at 68 is that energy doesn't disappear simply because time passes. It disappears because we continue living in ways that no longer suit the bodies we have now. We carry habits forward without questioning them. We accept exhaustion as normal. We stop listening. For people over 50, energy isn't something to chase. It's something to protect. You don't need extreme routines or dramatic changes. You need awareness. You need to notice what quietly drains you each day and have the courage to let it go. Stress that serves no purpose. Eating habits that comfort but cost too much. Expectations that belong to a younger body. I no longer try to reclaim who I was decades ago. I respect who I am now. That respect gave me more energy than any supplement or program ever did. Aging didn't weaken me. Fighting aging did. At 68, my energy returned not because I did more, but because I stopped doing what no longer belonged in my life. And that simple shift changed everything.